Hey guys, welcome back to The Well-Rounded Dude. We are on a well-rounded field trip today, and we are going to one of my favorite places, Dork Forest Comics, the best comic shop in Ontario County. Guys, this is Dork Forest Comics. Guys, this is the man, the myth, the legend himself, Rob. Hi. The owner of Dork Forest Comics. Before we hop into this, how did you come up with the name Dork Forest Comics?
So it's a funny story. My wife and I were watching this comedian on some show or whatever, and she was talking about how when she started dating this man, she was starting to realize that he was so into like D&D. He was into comic books, he was into all this other stuff, and that's when she realized she lived deep, deep in the Dork Forest. And my wife looked at me and she said, "That's you." And I was like, "Yeah, that's it. Okay, that fits me right." I mean, so I said, "That's a great name for my comic shop." So that's how we did it.
Very cool. Let's sit down and have a more proper chat.
All right.
All right, guys, welcome back to The Well-Rounded Dude. We're going to talk about one of my favorite topics. I'm at one of my favorite places in the whole wide world, Dork Forest Comics. You guys know we talk about a lot of topics on this channel, but it's not always just about hair product and ball powder. We're going to talk about comics. And I have my friend Rob with me, and he owns this shop, and we're going to talk a little bit about it. So, Rob, thanks for being here.
No
Thanks
problem.
for letting us to come here and go on a well-rounded
very
field
welcome.
trip.
Thanks.
Yeah. So tell us, how did you get into comics?
Well, this is way back when I was in high school, and I had just moved to this area. This is actually where I went to school in Mid Lakes, and it was about ninth grade. And in study halls, some people would bring comic books, and we'd pass them around, we'd read them, and then we'd talk about them and do all that kind of stuff. So that's where my passion came from, is starting to read there. Now, that was other people's comics. So then another friend of mine gave me a little box of comics, and I would read those. But when I got old enough, I started driving out to a place in Victor that was called Top Shelf Comics. And I started buying stuff there, and just it grew from that. I mean, I just loved reading them and enjoying the superheroes. I always thought that the morals were great in those. It kind of defined how I felt I should live my life, in that sense of just being a strong, helping people out when you can and doing those kind of things. And that's what comic books always represented.
Yeah, same for me. What was your favorite superhero? What were you reading then? What was the one that got you hooked?
The key is always Spider-Man, because you could always relate to Spider-Man when you're a teenager. Going from he has powers, but he also has all these problems. And Stan Lee always talked about it was like, you have this, all the other comics, they'd have all these powers, they'd never have any problems other than villains. And then now, all of a sudden, you have this teenage kid that he has real life problems. He has Bully, Flash Thompson.
Yeah.
He has anyone that, not only does he have to deal with, say the Scorpion or one of his villains, but Aunt May needs help over here, or he's trying to date this girl and she's turning him down, Mary Jane, or you've never met her. For the longest time, they kept her in the shadows, and his aunt was saying, "Come on, you got to date her," and he's like, "I don't want to be with anyone my aunt wants me to be with."
Yeah.
So then, she's got to be hideous or something, and they always kept her in the shadows. You never saw her, and then when the classic line, when he first sees her, she says, "Face it, Tiger. You've hit the jackpot." Yeah. So it was just, you could relate to Spider-Man the best.
Exactly. I love Spider-Man as well. You guys know I'm an unapologetic Batman fan, but it was when I was about 14 that I actually picked up Amazing Fantasy 15. That was actually my first Spider-Man book.
Okay.
Was reading that.
Really?
And I actually got to read it, and I was a huge Spider. That's what got me into
Was
Spider-Man.
it a reprint or the original?
And it was a reprint.
Okay, I was like, if you had the original, man, you wouldn't be sitting here with me right now.
Yeah. But so those were my first Spider-Man stories. Were the original ones.
Right.
So it was very cool to exactly what
Yeah,
you're
you
saying as a
related to it.
teenager, reading Spider-Man, because at that point it was kind of hard to get comics and such.
And like you, I love Batman. Batman was always great, and I
is
got into,
great and
is
continues
great.
to be great.
But the Dark Knight Returns was like
Yes.
in the '80s was like it was like no one had seen anything like that before. The older Batman that was, and I loved Batman too, Superman, all the iconic figures. But I also enjoyed Alpha Flight, which probably a lot of people don't even know who Alpha Flight are.
Tell us a little bit about Alpha Flight.
Well, Alpha Flight was a Canadian superhero team, and the connection to them was through the X-Men was Wolverine.
Yeah.
Because Wolverine had a big, strong connection with, he was Canadian,
Yeah.
and he came through the Weapon X program, and Alpha Flight was part of Department H. It was a division of the government of Canada, and they were just cool. They, you had Vanguard, you had Guardian, you had Puck, who was this little guy that was just tough and agile, and you had Sasquatch, kind of the Hulk of the Canadian team. But yeah, they were great. It was one of my favorites, and partly because there was a writer artist named John Byrne who did them, and I pretty much followed him, anything he did. So there was like Fantastic Four. He did all the major stuff for Marvel back then, and then he was iconic for redefining Superman's origin and everything back in the 80s and 90s. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So, let's get back to you a little bit.
Okay.
You got into comics.
Mhm.
Started. You went to Top Shelf.
Mm-hmm.
Then what led you to decide to open your own shop?
Well, I went into the military after high school. I traveled, I was stationed in Germany. And when I came back, in Germany, you couldn't get many comics. You had the Stars and Stripes bookstore, but they only had a smattering of stuff. And I was over there for 2 years. So when I came back, I went to a place called Wonderland Comics. And
It's a good place. I've been there
yes.
several times.
Wonderland's great.
Yep.
And when I went back, I was starting to, get all my stuff back. The 2 years that I lost, I was trying to collect back all the stuff I missed. And I talked to the owner there, and he got me a job there, and I worked there for over 20 some years. So my desire was to eventually buy it out from him. During those 20 years, we had discussions and stuff like that, but that didn't work out. And then I, left. But I started my own small business of, 8, 9, 10 people that were ordering stuff through me, and that built a little bit at a time. And then it was just a matter of trying to find a location that I could actually open up in and afford.
Yeah.
And me, I choose the best time ever to open up a business in the middle of COVID. Yeah, right in the middle of COVID. Everything shut down. I was in talks for this place before they shut everything down. Thank God I did not sign a lease, because then I would have been on rent, for a place that no one knew about, never, nothing. So luckily I didn't sign the lease before then, because they had to redo the floor, and we were negotiating that, and then they shut everything down.
Yeah.
So then it, mid-June-ish, they started saying businesses might start opening again, and of 2020, and then so we're back in discussions. They've done the floor, everything's set, and I opened up in the end of July of last year. And it was a lifelong dream of mine to have my own shop. Working at Wonderland set me up for it.
Yeah.
And so, and plus my wife said, get this stuff out of the house. So, that was, I had so much, most of these comics that you'll see in these bins and stuff is my collection from when I was 13 up. I just collected comics forever. And it was like, my thought process was, what am I going to do with this stuff after I pass away? my wife, my kids, they're not going to have any idea what to do with this, and it's like a massive undertaking for them. And I'm like, I need to have a store. My wife says, get a store, get it out of the house. And I'm like, okay, well, it's time. So, and plus it's my retirement plan.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, when I finish with interpreting in, say, 4 or 5 years, this will be my full-time job, and that's what I want.
What do you do as a full-time job again?
I'm an interpreter for the deaf.
Okay.
So, and I work with K through 12 in the schools, interpreting for students in their classes.
Okay.
So you're usually assigned a student for about 3 years, and then you move on to a new student in a new location. So,
Okay.
so yeah, that's what I've been doing, but I'm breaking down.
But you're a grown-up.
I am, yes.
Guys, that's really why I wanted to do this video, importantly, is that, again, this is one of my favorite places to go, but comic books get a bad stereotype, I would say, right?
I think
that there's
maybe 10, 20 years ago it was worse.
Oh, it definitely
When I
was
was growing
worse.
up and I was in my 20s and 30s, people would be like, what are you reading those for? You
Yeah.
know, those are for kids. And that kind of idea, I mean, I think the nerdiness or the dorkiness, like Dork Force Comics, you know, has evolved into like it's kind of cool now.
It's
but there
kinda cool,
still
but there's
is,
still
yeah, there's still that,
that stereotype.
yeah, that
of-
stereotype.
But you know,
I get it exactly. Yes.
yeah, we're looking at a guy here who was in the military, has a full-time job, and has a comic book store, and you're married, right?
Yes, I'm married.
And
Yeah.
2 kids.
Two kids.
2 kids,
yeah.
2 great kids. That stereotype isn't true, guys. You can
Right.
like this stuff and be an adult at the same time.
Absolutely. And if you look at it now, most of the things that everyone enjoys off of television or movies are somewhere connected back to a comic book.
Exactly.
They don't like to call them comic books. There's a stereotype. They don't
Yeah.
call them comic books. They call them graphic novels. Ooh, you know, graphic novels. It makes it cooler. It makes it something that, oh, it's not that stereotype of little kids read comic books. You know,
yeah.
so
And you know, at the end of the day, it's a comic book.
it
or
is
whatever.
a comic book. Anything, trade paperbacks like these right here are comic books put into a book format. And that's what they call graphic novels. So
Yeah.
originally, they're comic books.
Yeah.
They just combine like 4 or 5 issues into a book format.
Yeah.
And then they call them a graphic novel. So it's still comic books.
Yeah. That's the only difference. Fun story. This was 2008, right after the Dark Knight had come out.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking with an old boss of mine, and I had asked him if he had seen it, and he's like, "Nah, I'm not into like comic book movies and stuff like that." He's like, "The last movie I went to go see was Road to Perdition. I thought that was awesome." I'm like, "It's based off a comic book."
It's a comic book, exactly.
And he's like, "No, really?" I'm like,
Yes,
"Yeah." He's like,
yes. It doesn't always have to be
yeah.
superheroes.
He's like,
yeah.
Tom Hanks was in it though, and I'm like, yeah. It's the writing. I think part of it too was the of where that weird stereotype came from is a little bit is the Batman '66 show, where people
yes.
think of
Oh, yeah.
Batman
Adam West
is
with
extremely corny.
Yes.
They don't realize that like comic books are like seriously written.
Yep. They're written. I mean, now, even back then, like
They-
the Dark Knight and all
right.
those kind of things were geared more for a more adult audience. Not that you want
Exactly.
to detract little kids or anything like that from the comic books, but there's something for everybody in comic books.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter if you're female, male, kid, older person. There's something for everyone. I mean, you were talking about the movies. You have Viggo Mortensen that almost won an Oscar. At least it was for something. I forget the name of the movie. It was something with a vengeance or something where he was like a diner owner and his past comes back to haunt him. It was a movie and he almost won an Oscar for it. That was a comic book.
Yeah.
So, it's just I Am Legend with Will Smith. It's a comic. Well, you can go on. The list is on. Nowadays, almost everything is based off of comic books.
Yeah, and even things that weren't are being continued in comic book form.
Yeah.
There's just
It can go back and forth, and that's the way it should be. Any
Yeah.
kind of entertainment, you should be enjoying it any which way you want. Plus, comic books. It was great for vocabulary, great for reading when you're a kid, great for just learning morals,
Yep.
all these different things that,
Exactly.
I mean, my vocabulary and reading ability was up here, where a lot of kids that didn't get into it were not, so.
Exactly. Like when
Yeah.
I was 6 years old, that's what I would bring to school for like reading time was
Yeah.
was Batman comics. It's
It's awesome.
yeah, that's what I've always done. So how does your wife handle your obsession? You touched
She is
on it
actually very
before, but-
supportive of it, and she, I joked that she said get it out of the house, but
Right.
she was supportive of me having the shop. She knew that was my dream to actually have this, and now I have it. It's great. But she supports me. She's here when I need her. She's learning about it, and she learned when she married me that she had to get in with the system, because if she didn't, she wouldn't be able to talk to me half the time. It's the same with fantasy football. I was really into fantasy football, and she said, well, I guess I'm going to have to join fantasy football too, because 6 months out of the year I won't be able to talk to him about anything else, So,
Guys,
yeah,
get yourself a girl that will
Yes.
learn about comics and fantasy football.
Or she's already into it.
Yeah, that's even better.
Yeah.
But that's awesome. That's cool. And how do your kids like comics? Do they?
My daughter, she's somewhat into it. She's more into the anime, manga side of things,
Okay.
and that's fine. That's
Yeah,
that's another form, and
Yeah.
she loves that kind of stuff. My son's into all of it. He loves reading all the comic books. He's just like me, He's and like I said, this is going to be theirs. So if they want to take it over after I'm gone, he has a route to get into something that he has a passion about too. And Nikki wants to be a accountant, so that'll work perfectly.
They can work together.
Yeah. So yeah, Steven will be the comic book guy, know about the stuff and tell people about what's cool and what's not, and Nikki will cook the books. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, well, no, she'll do it legally,
Legitimately,
Yeah,
you know?
legitimately. Yeah.
She'll be using Quicken and all
Yeah.
that.
So, otherwise, Spider-Man will come get me.
She'll be like, "This isn't what I taught you."
Yes, this is not what you were supposed to do. With great power comes great responsibility, right? Yeah.
Oh, well, that's great. That's very cool. I'm glad that you were able to help us out with this and
Oh,
talk
cool.
with the guys.
Yeah.
I always ask a guest, any tips for the gentleman?
Just do it. Just if there's something you have a passion about, something that you like. The saying is, if you find something that you love, you'll never work a day in your life. And that's what you should do. You should find something, what your passion is, whatever it is, and find a route to make that into what your job is. But I say that, but you had mentioned you wanted to bring something up in here, and it was my passion back I loved to draw. I really did. But it wasn't something I wanted to make a job out of, because if I had been forced into doing artwork and stuff like that, yeah, I was about 16 when I drew this, and
We've been friends for a while, and he didn't tell me he could draw. This tipped over, and I picked it up, and I'm like, dude, you've been holding out on me.
yeah, I do enjoy drawing. I enjoy drawing. If someone really loves something and they ask me to draw it, I'll do that. But as far as making it into a job, I just didn't want to do that.
Right.
So that kind of goes against what I said about passion, but passion was the comics in general. It's just not the drawing part of it. But,
Right.
But yeah, I do it as a side thing, and I enjoy doing it. But yeah, this was like I said. I even put Pink Floyd because it's the wall. You can tell the time frame that I was a kid, so I'm dating myself here. So yeah,
What's the saying? Everything that's old is new again?
yes,
So-
exactly. Yeah. So that's cool.
But look at this. And he didn't even tell me. I've known him for a long time. He didn't tell me he could draw. And especially, my favorite character. So this is mine, right? I
Yeah,
can
sure,
take
yeah,
some?
yeah.
Okay.
For a certain amount of no.
This is very cool, man.
Yeah, but I can do something like that for you if you want.
Would you?
I would, absolutely.
I'd appreciate it.
Yeah.
I'm always looking for more art.
All right, cool beans.
All right. So another thing I was going to ask you is, this is a style channel at its core.
Mm-hmm.
Favorite menswear piece? Something you go to?
I definitely as far as sneakers go, I like Puma.
Okay, that's cool.
I got the Puma shoes on right here. And I use gel for my hair because, you know, it's curly. It like frills up, but I don't have a specific brand for that, so I don't know.
Okay.
All right.
We'll help you out with that.
Yeah, that's why I'm watching his channel, so
Yeah.
I can see what I need to use as opposed to what I'm using.
Yeah,
Yes.
we'll help you out with that. We'll talk about that
All right.
after we're done with this. But you have very cool hair. Actually,
Oh, jeez.
you do, seriously. Like, my hair naturally looks like yours. Seriously, I'll show you a picture.
Oh, really?
I'm
Oh,
serious.
cool.
Yeah, I used to have it long, just like yours.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll show you after we're done.
We're curly hair bros.
Yeah, I'll put a, yeah, I'll put a picture up on this too. You guys will be able to see it too. I'm not kidding. I'm serious. So
That's cool.
that's very cool. So
It keeps me young looking. It does. If I took this off, I'd look about 10 years older than so there you go.
well, you know, that's very cool. Thank you for doing this. Thank you
Well,
for
thank you for coming in
No
and
problem.
spotlighting my shop and everything that comics is about. It's all about comics, guys.
Yep.
I mean, games too, but comics is my love. That's my passion, and like I said, it's a variety of stuff. Any kind of stories, any kind of thing. It doesn't have to be superheroes, but it can be if that's your thing. You know.
Yeah. Well said. Very well.
All right.
Okay, so Rob is going to show us some of his favorite comics and some of the ones that are for sale here at Dork Forest Comics. Take it away.
We were talking before about Amazing Spider-Man, and we have the Amazing Spider-Man number 300 here. And this is a iconic comic book because it's the first appearance of Venom. And it's one of my favorites because he had the black costume, and I love the black costume on Spider-Man.
The black costume is awesome. It's one of my favorites
So,
too.
There's that. I mean, we have over here The Vengeance of Bane. So he's a Batman, you know, he's a Batman, and he was telling me how he has a signed version of this that's been graded and everything. And
I got it signed by the artist, Graham Nolan.
a lot of these things are, you know, first appearances of people or big things.
Yeah.
So Bane was a big villain for Batman at the time.
Oh, yes.
Yes. Well, yeah, they do the. I'm Darth Vader, but not really. No. But yeah, I don't know if you'll be able to see them. I can't get them down, but the Mutt and Jeffs over on the top, they're very important to me because they were my father's, and he was an immigrant from Hungary. And when he came over, he was trying to learn how to read, and he would get the Mutt and Jeff comics, and those are actually his Mutt and Jeff's comics. They're up there for sale, but it's still something that, you know,
Sentimental but for sale.
but for sale. Yeah, exactly.
That's a great
it's
story.
Very cool. Justice League with the, you know, Snyder cut out now.
Yeah.
So you got some Justice League stuff going on. The Vision with, you know, his family, which
with
was a really
WandaVision.
interesting. Wanda wasn't in this, but it was a very interesting series, The Vision.
Infinity Gauntlet.
Oh yeah. Everyone loves that too.
Yeah.
Avengers.
Yeah. With the Infinity Gems.
And this was back when it wasn't cool to read comics.
Yeah. Infinity Gems. Not stones. We say gems around here.
Yes. Yeah, no Tesseracts. It's the Cosmic Cube. It's the Cosmic Cube, people,
Yes.
not a Tesseract. Oh, that's the naughty version.
Yeah.
That's an adult version of Batman.
Batman's penis makes an appearance in this.
It does. And comics are for kids. And we got some good Silver Age stuff too. You know, some Captain America back in the day. You have classic Avengers. Vengeance is ours. I don't know why I was speaking like Batman there, but vengeance is ours.
And we're back from our field trip, guys. I want to give a huge thank you out to Rob for letting us come out and check out his shop. If you're in the area, please be sure to check out Dork Forest Comics. It's a wonderful shop. You guys will love it. Best comic shop in Ontario County. All right, guys, so that's going to do it for this week's video. please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Help me fight the YouTube algorithm, all right? Be sure to check out our website, thewellroundeddude.com. Visit our merch page. Dude15 gets you 15% off your total purchase. All right, guys, we'll see you in the next one. Guys, you're in for a very special treat today because we have a picture of me in my youth that was taken. I don't exactly remember who did it, but they captured me perfectly. My essence. I think they got me to a T.